Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK. I've made a triumphant return. My man, Magomed Ankalaev, has picked up the win, so I thought I could show my face again. It's Taylor Collard here, delighted to be joined, as usual, by Nathan, the Octagon Oracle himself, Shield. Nathan, how are you, mate? How was the weekend?
All good, mate. Yeah. Nice to have some fights back on.
Very nice.
I'd like to make an apology first off before we get going, because it's not an apology from me; it's from John. Now, obviously, John was supposed to be on the podcast today,
Yeah.
But after his boy Manel Cat missed weight and left mine standing holding his tail, he decided to jump off. So yeah, he claims he's busy with work, but I'm not buying into that premise. Just didn't want to come on here and face the music, mate. So that's a quick one, just an apology from John. Other than that, you know what, mate? We kind of touched on the preview, sorry, and we were saying for an Apex card, this is pretty decent. You know, there was some decent scraps on there, some 50-50 knocks, some decent names. It got a little bit of everything, and I'll be honest, I actually really enjoyed this card. It was started at 9 p.m. UK time, so it was, you know, not like normal when they start at 12, and that's my sleep out the window. I went till about 3 o'clock, and that was me back off to bed for a few hours and back up.
Yeah, it was great, man. It was great to have a card back. Am I disappointed it's still at the Apex? Yeah, a little bit. But I guess there's reasons for it. Yeah, it kind of makes sense when you look at some of the guys that are on there. You know, guys that want to kind of build up their names, and we'll talk through them as we go. But you know, your Joshua Vans, Gene Silva, Ferry Basharat, for example, it makes sense. I mean, let's dive straight in at the top with Magomed breaking the nose, breaking the face of Johnny Walker in that second round there. I mean, look, was it a great performance overall? I don't know, because Johnny Walker's a tricky one. And actually, I was listening to the Believe You Me podcast on the way back from work today, and Anthony Smith is saying that is the Johnny Walker I wanted to face. You know, the guy who was doing all the spinny stuff, being a little bit unpredictable. You know, hitting the was it Johnny Walker hitting the capoeira? I think it was, right at the end of the first round, wasn't it? So yeah, and then, you know, Magomed just kind of comes in there with really bad intentions in the second round and just knocks his face off. I mean, I don't think we've really seen that Magomed come out, really. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but his fights have been, some of them have been dominant. You point towards the Paul Craig one, minus the submission at the end, but yeah, that
dominant but forgetful.
Yeah, exactly. Dominant but forgetful. But that finish really puts a stamp on it. And he's absolutely within his rights to come and call for a title shot. We don't know what's going on with Jamal Hill apart from getting arrested. So I think he's absolutely within his rights to call a title shot. And I kind of said in our group chat, I hope I've not kind of jinxed this as the UFC 300 headliner. I would really not want that. Like I said in our previous show, I think Ankalaev will be the champ, but I don't want it. Similar to what you said in our chat as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as for the fight itself, when we did the preview, and I obviously did a bit of a write-up on this as well, and for me, I was looking at this, I said Johnny Walker needs to do all the things to win this fight that he shouldn't do, and that was to be reckless, to throw the flying knees, to try the question mark kicks and other bits that he did do throughout the first round and the second for as long as it lasted. Because he's never going to beat Ankalaev over a 5-round points decision. It's just never going to happen. It's not possible. No one's done it. It's never really going to happen. The thing with Ankalaev for me was always, I was watching him and I was thinking Walker needs to take the risks. But if he goes for it and he misses, he's in a shit show. And it's kind of what happened. I mean, I get Anthony Smith's point, but also, you know, we are talking about very different styles here, very different athletes. And I suppose it's all well and good looking at that and saying that's the Johnny Walker that I want to fight. I mean, I'm an Anthony Smith fan, but at the same time, you know, I get it because Johnny Walker is very reserved. against Anthony Smith. He didn't really pull the trigger. He kind of sat behind, the length and kind of. But I think that was more, it's up to Anthony Smith to break that down. He didn't. Magomed Ankalaev did.
Absolutely.
So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Ankalaev, for me, I was watching the first round, and I think the commentary team, I don't say this very often, but I think the commentary team actually nailed it. I think it was Paul Felder. I like Felder, to be fair. It said that basically Magomed Ankalaev in the first round just sat back, watched Johnny Walker, let him kind of get all the crazy shit out of his system in the first 5 minutes. And then as soon as round 2 started, it was like, right, you're done with that now. And then he just went and absolutely battered him.
Yeah.
So dominant from Ankalaev, never looked in any kind of trouble to me. Thought he looked very controlled. I was doing the live updates for this one, and I was sort of writing after the first round, Magomed Ankalaev doing what Magomed Ankalaev does, not a lot. That was kind of the line that I went down. But look, at the end of the day, he goes into the second round, he finishes the fight, and he follows up with an absolute brutal shot. So I'm there for it. We know he's a top contender. It's that we've needed to see, him kind of putting the foot down. Now, this fight with Johnny Walker for me was kind of a no-win fight almost as well for Ankalaev, because Johnny Walker comes through this. Johnny Walker jumps straight into title contention.
Yeah.
Ankalaev comes through this and people say, yeah, but it was Johnny Walker.
Still a question mark there.
Yeah, so for me, I'd actually like to see, I think Jamal will come back and fight for the title against Pereira. I've said already, I think that'll be UFC 300. I think that's an announcement waiting to be made. And I'd like to see Ankalaev take on the winner of Yuri and Alexander Rakic. I think that's...
Do you think he's got one more?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I do. I think he's got the draw with Jan. He's had the thing with Anthony Smith, but Anthony Smith's on a bit of a slide, if we're going to call it that. Johnny Walker has the ability to beat some top names, but has lost to the majority of them. It's not really the standout win. I think if Rakic comes through Yuri and he beats Rakic, that's a solid win. Likewise, if Yuri goes out there and gets the win over Rakic and then he beats Yuri, he's absolutely next. It becomes undeniable at that point for me. But I think he needs one more.
So you think Pereira Hill will be 300? Yeah.
I think even if it's not, I think it'll be next. Even if we're looking further back towards the middle of this year, I still think, like heavyweight titles just been defended. So it's not like it needs to be turned around quickly. I think Pereira's looking to get on 300. He's teased about announcements. There's been talk about the Aspinall fight. Those sorts of things. There's always the Izzy thing lingering over that we've talked about before. But I think Pereira's already sorted, and I don't think it's going to be Ankalaev.
Yeah. I'm not one for holding up belts. I mean, we see it kind of a bit too often sometimes in the UFC. So I definitely, Pereira's kind of been dropping hints. He's been talking about Hill. I think he dropped the biggest one about Hill, and that he would have fight news, and is he going to fight Colm Aspinall and all that. I don't like that talk. I think that's a bit ridiculous at this point.
Well, I think he put out, didn't he, that he was kind of starting camp almost, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And if we're coming towards the end of January, if you look at February, March, an 8-week camp takes you into April. Yeah. Give or take.
He's gearing up for it. Yeah. And
8 to 10 week, it's whether he's got an opponent or not, who knows? He might just be teasing.
To himself. I mean, I think if you're the UFC, one of the bigger names you put on there, and it's one of the bigger divisions you put on there. So, drifting off a little bit, I think if Magomed looks like he's going to be the only one that could turn it around. We don't know the circumstances of Jamal Hill. Rakic is a bit of a wild card because we don't know where he's at, right? We don't know how good he's going to be when he comes.
Well, that's why I said about Rakic in a prediction, and kind of said, look, I won't be surprised if Rakic finishes as champion at the end of this year, because a winner, if he beats Yuri, and that's easier said than done, but if he beats, Yuri has got a lot of holes in his game, and if he beats Yuri, he's next, in my eyes. No matter how long he's been out for, he's just beaten the guy. So, if you're looking at Pereira, he's the champ. Jamal is going to get the next shot. So who's the next in line as we look at it currently? You would say it was Yuri prior to this weekend. So
I think
we'll see.
I think a lot of it depends on Alex. I think whatever Alex wants to do, I think the UFC will do, because they're not in a position, kind of like, it's not really one to compare, but kind of like what they've done with Conor, where they pushed him back and pushed him back. I think they need something for 300. Pereira's a big star. He's got a kind of a glossy belt. Light heavyweight's always been a bit of a glossy belt for the UFC. So I think he holds a lot of the cards here. I think if he wants to fight Ankalaev at 300, game on. If Hill's not fit and Pereira wants to fight Hill, I think he can push that back and do that whenever Hill comes. So I think Pereira holds a lot of the cards here.
I think it does. I think it's also down to Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill said the UFC had told him as soon as he's fit to return, he'll fight for the title. So if he's fit, he's next. But like you said, if he's got stuff going off and he's not ready, well, yeah, book Ankalaev. But if it's on UFC 300, I hope it's on the prelims.
That would be amazing. Could you imagine? I mean, secretly, honestly, the best situation for me is it gets pushed back. Jamal Hill versus Pereira, and then the winner fights Ankalaev later in the year, because then Ankalaev's got a better chance of staying champ for my prediction to come through.
It is hard, this light heavyweight division, because there's only a handful of names in there that really excite me, and outside of that, it's a pretty poor division.
Yeah,
and the biggest problem I see here is the fact that Magomed Ankalaev may be the most well-rounded guy in there, but he's also probably the least exciting.
I mean, it says a lot.
So if you're looking at a champion, I'd take Alex Pereira as the champion all day, because the fights you can make with Alex Pereira are endless. Totally. But if you put Alex Pereira in with Ankalaev, even if I had to put my, the fight's not been announced, nothing's happening, but if I had to put my cards on the table now, I'd probably pick Ankalaev. Because stylistically, he's a nightmare for Pereira.
He is, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was nice to see him go out and actually get the job done. I was a little disappointed with this card. Obviously, I thought Matheus Nicolau and Manel Kape was going to be an absolute belter. I was really excited for that fight. There's talk of sickness and everything else. That didn't like Manel Kape's approach online. Sort of came on and sort of said, it's all my fault and I've done this and whatever. But when someone missed weight against me, they were heavier and I still fought. So it's like, well, now you're putting it back on Nicolau. Just hold your hands up. You fucked up. You missed weight. It's your responsibility. So I'm growing endlessly tired of Manel Kape to the point where he's becoming one of the fighters that I like the least, because he just talks the talk and doesn't walk the walk. He's been in there with Pantoja, got beat, went in there against Nicolau, got beat, got the chance to get a rematch against a guy that beat him, albeit controversially, missed weight.
Yeah.
And it's not his first time either. No. So either move up or be more professional. Okay, there's sickness, there's other things, I don't cut weight, so it's not really my place to say, because I know what these guys go through is hell. But when you've got people like Magomed and you've got Albazi and you've got all these other guys chomping at the bit, why should, like, Matheus Nicolau took that fight, and now what happens to him? If he'd have won that fight, he could have been right in the frame for a title shot. Now he's just sat holding his dick. I put a post out earlier on because Mo Mokaev was saying that Alex Perez has gone quiet, and I was saying, well, Matheus Nicolau surely ready.
Yeah.
Book the fight between Nicolau and Mokaev. Make that one.
Nothing's been booked for him yet, has it? I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I think, if you're Kape, you've got to come out and take it. What I really, really like about this is that Nicolau turned around and went, no, 3.5.
They need to do it more.
And 4.5 pounds over championship weight, right? Bear in mind, it's a pound over. He gets 126, not 125. That's 4.5 pounds. That's a lot. That is pretty significant. I think I really like what Nicolau's done. I admire his courage to turn around and say, no, I'm not going to take this fight, because it does then become a real lose-lose for him, really. If he loses the fight, it doesn't really matter. He gets 30%, but he's lost the fight. He's lost his chance to climb up the ladder when there's going to be opportunities opening up with the way the flyweight division and how active it's been. So, no, 100% agree with you there. And I just think Kape's got to, like you said, he's got to move up, or he's got to probably drop down a fight now, drop down to someone 10 to 15 probably.
It's frustrating because that was the fight on this card that I was looking forward to the most. And it fell off. And like you said, Nicolau could have taken that fight, and there's that carrot dangling of a bit more money. But fair play to Nicolau, because the first fight was extremely close. Most thought that Cap won it, but Nicolau got his hand raised. He got knocked out in his last fight. So he's coming in, he's done his job, and Manel Cap turns up 3.5 pounds over. He's absolutely within his rights to say, nope, not tonight. Not tonight, and you're not getting that rematch either, because this fight won't get rebooked. I guarantee it. Nicolau will move on, he'll fight somebody else, Cap will move on, and that's it. So his chance at redemption's gone. And that can be punishment in itself. But for me, if you're the UFC and you've got fighters like this that are missing weight, why are you giving them opportunities?
Exactly,
are you going to stick? You've got, say for example, you've got UFC 300 coming up. You could put Manel Cap versus somebody else on the card there, and it would be a massive fight. But are you going to do it?
No,
because you can't rely on him.
Yeah.
So, there's my little Manel Cap rant, especially for you, John. But yeah, the one thing I will say is that the co-main that replaced it was just fantastic to see Jim Miller doing Jim Miller, man.
Jim, the eternal.
At his age, with all the records he's got, he's just not lost a step. He's just so smooth and so clinical in there, and he just fights the same way that he's always fought. He just, refuses to take a back step. Was meeting Benitez with everything else that he threw. Every time he kicked, Miller kicked back. Every time he punched, Miller punched back. And after a moment of time, you start seeing Benitez thinking, I'm going to second guess this, because every time I hit him, he hits me back, and it's harder, and it's more accurate, and it's worse. And to see him kind of push on and do what he did, get in the finish, was just the icing on the cake, and straight into UFC 300.
Yeah, it was class for him, man. Getting that submission by a rear naked choke right towards the end of the fight was terrific, and you just love to see it. It's stuff you really love to see. You hope. I mean, who knows where it's going to end for him, if it's going to end at UFC 300. But he looks better than ever, man, doesn't he? He looks unreal. I mean, what is his win streak now? Is it 4?
He's on a decent streak. I mean,
I know finishes in there.
The most important thing around Jim Miller, whilst you're looking that up, is for me, there's all the talk about UFC 300, and his interview in the cage was phenomenal.
Yeah.
After the result, talking about Paul Felder, the guy sat ringside, cage side, his name's come across my desk. Love that fight if Felder really wants it. I don't want to see Felder go in there unless he's sold on the idea that that's what he wants to do. There was the talk of Matt Brown. Again, Matt Brown said today, if he takes that fight with Jim Miller, that could be his last. Could see them, both potentially walk out the door there. That would be a great fight. Up at 170. And then obviously did the call out of Brock Lesnar, given what Anthony Smith had said. And it was just great, man. He's still in there, and he's still enjoying himself. And as long as that's the case, you keep going.
Yeah, and the guy fought twice last year. Lost a unanimous decision to Alexander Hernandez. And at the time, Alexander was on quite a decent run, and then he's finished Jesse Butler and just finished Gabriel Benitez. So what else can you say?
I think it's how you match him. I think there's an element of how you match him as well, but at the same time, Jim Miller's equally capable of, starting a fight and finish a fight, even though he's losing it. This one wasn't a case of that. He was well matched. It was a nice little knock for as long as it went on, and Jim Miller got the job done. But I mean, him and Felder for me is just brilliant. But I said it before, Taylor, and I've not changed my mind. I picked him to go up against Paddy at UFC 300 because I think I was watching him and I'm thinking, I think he knocks Paddy out, and I am a fan of Paddy. I am, but Jim Miller is so clean. And yes, he's at the tail end of his career, but Paddy makes a lot of mistakes. And somebody with that much skill and that much experience will expose that.
Yeah, I mean, could even catch him in a submission. But I agree. I think I put him down to have the Hooker rematch. That would be a fun fight, really, really fun fight. Is it good for Jim Miller? Probably not, but it would be a fun fight. But I think the Paul Felder one, like you said, it's how you match him. I think the Paul Felder one's a fun one. Matt Brown, please God, no. Okay, it's got some stardust to it because they're both retiring, most knockouts versus most wins, I think. And yes, but Matt Brown is huge, right?
Yeah.
Jim Miller is pretty, he's a lightweight and a mid-level lightweight, but Matt Brown's on the bigger side of welterweight.
Yeah.
As for the Brock Lesnar one, yeah, just Anthony Smith, just no, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Let's jump straight to my favorite performance of the night, Mario Batista.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this fight, man. I have to say, I loved Batista's style. I loved the way he was almost playing with Ricky Simone at times. I think the feints were on point. Ricky Simone was biting quite a lot. Takedown defense was excellent, and Ricky Simone's no pushover. He is a little bit of a funny one in terms of the UFC. He kind of tends to go, win loss, win loss, and he's kind of been there or thereabouts. But he's beat Jack Shaw, he's beat Rafael Assunção. Those are legit guys. And recently, he's only lost to Song Yadong and Rob Font. Going back a few years, the Rob Font one. So, man, what a performance from Mario Batista. I didn't see that coming. I thought this is kind of another builder fight for Ricky Simone.
Really?
But so impressive. Yeah, I thought it might have been. I thought it might have been, to try and get him back on track. But
well, we spoke about it in the preview, and I was excited for this fight because I thought it was excellent matchmaking. Bautista's there knocking on the door at the top 15. Ricky Simone's kind of the guy, as we said last week, he's kind of almost the gatekeeper for if you're going to go on and do something. If you don't beat Ricky Simone, then it's back to the drawing board. But if you beat Ricky Simone, then you're inserting yourself into a conversation. And I thought the way that he beat Ricky Simone was extremely impressive. He was perfect. He was absolutely perfect, pretty much start to finish. I thought Ricky Simone looked absolutely out of his depth. It was just dominant. It was dominant. The threats that Ricky Simone normally brings just weren't really there. He got clipped, I think, at the end of the first round and dropped, but it was more of a... And he sort of went back to the corner and said, I can't throw the high kick anymore. And it was the knee up the middle, because it was doing some damage early doors, and then he got caught at the end, but it wasn't a heavy knockdown. I don't think he was hurt. I think it was more of a, he was in the air midway, went down, just more of a balance thing than anything. But I thought, like you said, Bautista was phenomenal. Opens a lot of doors for him now.
And you look at that and
top 15. So
yeah, that's it. That's what I wrote on my notes. I wrote on the bottom of my notes, this is a top 15 fighter. Just looking at the records there, he's got a cancelled bout against Cody Garbrandt August last year. Oof, that would have been a banger. That would have been a hell of a good fight, I think. Obviously, you're not going to rebook that because Cody's got the Figueiredo fight at 300, which is absolute fire as well. But yeah, Batista, he's one you mark on your topology wherever you follow fighters, and you say, okay, next time he's fighting, I'm switching on. And looking down Simone's record, actually, he has a win over Merab Dvalishvili, believe it or not. Right, so he's been,
well, this is the thing. I mean,
this is a great
the reality is, you put Ricky Simone back in with Jack Shaw. I'd favour Jack Shaw because I think Jack Shaw's extremely talented and just kind of had an off night. But I think the weight, everything else that went into that, it's a learning curve. It's one of them. It can happen. It's just one of those things. But ultimately, Jack Shaw will come again. As for Ricky Simone, feels a little bit like it's time to not. I'm not talking about retirement or anything. I'm saying that as far as the top 15 goes, I think that this is where we're going to see more of him now. He's going to be more around this. I hate to say gatekeeper because it seems so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Round if you beat Ricky Simone to move into the top 15 or get a shot at the rankings.
Yeah, I'd agree. He might pop back into that top 15 to 10 every once in a while, but yeah, I think he'll be in and around there. Rest of the main card, so it was obviously the Bruno Ferreira Phil Hawes and Waldo Cortez Acosta against Andrei Arlovski. I mean, the Phil Hawes one was a bit nasty, wasn't it?
Well, it was one of those knockouts where you if you love the sport, you go. If you're a casual kind of watching it for the first time, you think, "Fucking hell, that's violent." It was just but it was coming. You could see it coming. The fight didn't last very long, but you could see throughout the process of that fight, you were just thinking, yeah, I don't fancy Phil Hawes to get this done. He's going to get caught at some point. He was getting tagged. He was just missing Ferreira, just out of range, and then bang, that was it, all done. Over in a heartbeat. A few follow-up shots there, which no disrespect to Ferreira, it's not him, but I don't know what the referee was doing.
It was a bit. It was a bit of a
Needed
late
to be in a bit
stoppage.
quick there because he was clearly done. It was
Yeah,
absolutely
and
cooked.
Ferreira just looked like he had the power advantage. He looked like he had the speed advantage. I really liked his patience in getting that finish with the flying knee. I mean, how often do you see guys just absolutely jump in on them and get caught with something or whatever? Yeah, it's for Phil Halls. I mean, it's a struggle. It's a real struggle
Yeah.
to see how you come back from that because he was completely, completely outmatched, and that takes him now to a 3-fight losing streak. I mean, he's now what's that 5 in his last 6 losses. That's not good. All pretty much, yeah. The Andre Petroski one was grappling. The rest were all finishes. Round one, round one, round one, round one. Chris Curtis. Not good.
Yeah.
Not good if you're Phil Halls, but great if you're Bruno Ferreira.
Correct, yeah. Especially the way he did it. But yeah, it was a good performance from him. Like you said, Phil Hawes is just not looking great. May not see him again in the UFC. We'll just, it's teetering along those lines. But I'd like to just go into a little rant, mate, if I can.
Rant
and
away.
It's gonna be aimed at Waldo Cortez Acosta, because if you're going to dance and prat around and act like you're the next heavyweight champion of the world, you better fucking fight like it.
You're right.
And this man doesn't. He just doesn't. Me and John actually had a disagreement. I said I fancied Arlovski to potentially old man him a little bit in this one. And he wasn't winning the fight. Acosta was winning it because those 1, 2, 3 heavy shots were doing more damage than, the quick jabs and the kind of right at the end of the punch shots from Arlovski. But Arlovski was moving better. He had a better style. He had a better structure. He had better defense. Even he was kind of the one forcing the pace a little bit. And Acosta was just. I think I tweeted out at the time, probably from the Combat Sports UK page actually, which Lewis might give me a bollocking for. But it was I was basically saying I've seen people with more skill fighting in Doncaster Town Centre than what I've seen from Cortez Acosta. He's terrible. He's absolutely terrible. And I don't, it's not really our thing here to slander people, but I am going to want him because you fuck about, you're dancing around. He was just, the way he was playing, like, first of all, you're in the Apex, so you're dancing for about 25 people, right? So first of all, you're not in a stadium, you're not entertaining anybody. Everyone's come to see fights, and you're just fucking around against a guy that's, nearly ready for his pension, that's been there, done it, got the t-shirt, but he's as old as time. It's just, I just didn't like it, mate. I want to see him get stepped up and knocked out. It's as simple as that, because I was pissed off watching it. I just honestly I saw quite a lot of hate online for it as well, so it's not just me. But just like, you're in there, you're samba dancing, you're doing all that, you're shaking this round and what, throw a fucking punch.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, just absolutely dreadful. But I'll move on from that before I get too wound up.
I mean, you're not going to find any disagreements from me. Yeah, I thought it was pretty despicable as well. Said, especially considering Andre Arlovski, what he'd done for the game.
You're in there against a legend and you're just acting like a dick.
And the type of fight it was, either it's like you got 2 things, Waldo Acosta. You had your left jab, and then to a massive overhand right that even I could see coming, right, with a delay on the TV. So Andre Arlovski getting out of the way of that all day. He steps up to one of the better guys, and he's just not. He's probably getting thrown around.
I mean, he's dancing around as well, and it was the worst fight of the card.
Yeah,
and I've just quickly flicked through as well just to make sure that it definitely was, but it was. It was the worst fight
definitely
of the card.
Was. Yeah.
And it was not even a close. Who was the second worst, because all the rest were decent scraps. This was just shit, and it was disrespectful to Arlovski and not entertaining him. Yeah. He needs to put some work in, otherwise he'll be fighting for. Well, we'll not go there. Anyway, prelims.
Prelims.
I was impressed with Preston Parsons, mate. Against Semmelsberg, I thought he was dominant. He was completely in control from start to finish. Never looked worried whatsoever. Probably deserved a finish. He was that good. He didn't really put a foot wrong. I was really impressed with Preston Parsons.
I agree. I agree. I mean, Selmsberg is a tough fight. He's a tough fight. He's a grinder. He will make you go to dark places. And Parsons looked at a high skill level. You know, he looked really, really impressive for me. Like, I was really impressed with with his striking. And I think he just made Selmsberger not look in his league, which is quite rare. And you could see the frustration in Selmsberger's corner and him in that third round, just not being able to get near Parsons. And Parsons
Just didn't have an answer.
Yeah, Parsons just kind of piecing him up. What do I want to shout out on the prelims? I mean, my biggest shout out probably goes to Marcus McGee. I really like Farid Basharat's performance as well, because I think that Taylor Lopez is a really, really tough fight. Look at what he did to Calvin Loughran.
The post I put out for Marcus McGee as well, the live tweeting that I was doing on the night, put him in front of fans. Stop putting Marcus McGee in the Apex. The guy's phenomenal. He's an excellent talent. He's got a crazy style. You know, he kind of teeters in and out, and he moves in all kind of funny ways, but he's a killer. But he's very, very talented as well. And, you know, he showed that he was a level above Bolanos and got the job done nice and early.
And Marcus McGee, he's another one who's kind of a data downloader. You know, I think he slowed. He started slow in that first round, but you can just tell his speed was there. He was getting out of the way of shots. He was
just getting the timing.
And then Bob, out of nowhere, just absolutely went for him in round two. Dropped him, and then just got the finish. You know, with that.
I think the age comes into it as well. I think there's a level of maturity with Marcus McGee. I think, what is he, 34, something like that? He's not a young guy, but he's quite early in his career insofar as, you know, this run that he's on. But step him up, man, because he's ready for it.
Step him up.
Like you said, the Basharat and the Lapalus fight, a little bit more one for like hardcore MMA fans than casuals. But, you know, I really liked this fight, and I was surprised to kind of see it as low down on the card as it was as well, because Taylor Lapalus is extremely talented. You know, he looked great against Caelan Loughran over in Paris. And Farid Basharat, I think, is an absolute rising star. And I thought the fact that Basharat handled Lapalus the way he did shows that he's absolutely got a hell of a future ahead of him, because the takedown defense from Lapalus is insane. But he still got him there. Yeah. You know, and the way he timed them and the way he disguised the takedowns, it was just so good. Weston Wilson got his arse kicked. Shane Silver's a bit of a psycho.
Oof. Is that what he's doing?
The fucking hell's he doing?
Mate. All right, mate.
Crazy guy.
I mean, demo with Bisping and everything. It was just a bit odd.
Yeah. Took him longer to walk to the octagon than it did to get
he's
the fight.
Part of that, he's part of that weird team with that little guy with the white glasses, right? What's his name?
Yeah.
Always
it's the nerds.
The
something.
Nerd Squad or whatever, right? Because I remember when Cejudo won the title and the guy's there on Joe Rogan's other arm with his bloody camera and everything. I'm like, just get out of the way, you idiot. Get out of the way. And every time I've seen him, he's been acting like an idiot. And just the white shades like that just annoy anyone. Right, they just annoy anyone. Maybe that's the point, right? It gets you talking about him. So he seems to be one of those. Nicholas Motta and Joshua Van as well. Decent performances from them too. Joshua Van, one to look out for, definitely, right?
I mean, the Tom Nolan one, obviously, Tom Nolan came through the Contender Series, and I didn't really see too much of it, if I'm honest, mate. But I was watching the highlights just before the fight to kind of see what Tom Nolan was all about, and I thought, he's a massive guy, but his chin is there to be hit.
Yeah,
like you can see him even the fights that he won in the Contender Series and the knockouts and stuff. Like every time he did it, you thought anyone with any modicum of skill is going to just wipe him out, because he's just there to be hit. Very Paddy-like, except he's 6'3". Yeah. You know, the chin's right up in the air, and he's just there to be hit, and that's what ended up happening. You know, good finish for Nicholas Motta. Tom Nolan was talking a lot of smack and kind of got his arse kicked, and in my opinion, probably has just been exposed a little bit. At a particular level, like you said, I think Joshua Van looks great, mate. Again, very Marcus McGee-esque insofar as, you know, didn't really rush that first round. The commentary team kept constantly referring to it, saying, you know, this is what he does. He starts slow. He looks like he's in a bit of trouble, and he needs to not do that. And then round two, bang, it's all over. He's just good hands, mate. Very good hands.
Yeah, and I think that's how you handle these early fights in your career. And then you start to build up. You start to build up, get your speed in, start getting in front of a crowd. He's an exciting one. Another one to put on your radar. That'll do us for the review of the coming out party for Magomed Ankalaev. Stay tuned for later in the week. We'll be dropping the big 297 preview. We'll find out if Sean Strickland actually does stab Dricus du Plessis as he is threatening to do. You know, we can all kind of see it coming. Nathan, thank you very much for your time as always.
No problem, mate.
And please drop us a follow on all of the platforms and comments as well, please. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.